You ready, Shannon? It's 5:30 and we'll start our regular meeting with a roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton.
Here.
Commissioner Barwick.
Here.
Commissioner Webb.
Here.
Commissioner Stecklin.
Here.
Mayor Absher.
Here. She will absolutely not like me saying this, but I wanted to welcome my wife to the city council meeting. And that's Cheryl. She is here not for me, but for our young people that went to Japan that are here to report on their experience, and she wanted to hear it. But because this is her first city council meeting, I'd like to invite her to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah. Real loud, Cheryl.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, dear. Okay, that brings us to item number 3 on the agenda, our public comments and audience to visitors. This is subject to 2 ordinances, which are named in this section on the agenda. Both of those ordinances are up here by the flowers. Among other things, which I need to do a better job of limiting people, but it generally, unless extended by the chair, limits to about 5 minutes of comments. So, is there anybody who'd like to speak to the council tonight on the subject? It's sort of first come, first serve. I think there's some people here to speak tonight, so. Just come up to this podium up here, please. Tell us who you are and what you're going to speak on, please.
Good evening. My name is Alex Fisher. I was the unit director for the Boys and Girls Club in Marion. I worked for the Boys and Girls, excuse me. I worked for the Boys and Girls Club for a little over 2 years. With the recent closure, just kind of wanted to speak and kind of hear what's kind of going on with it, and also share my story of like the impact that it's had on me and the kids I've seen around through my time there. Excuse me. When we first started it, we opened in December of 2021. We had probably an average of about 5 kids a day, very small. The 2 sitting over there were some of our first members. Our last day, last Thursday, we had 50 kids there, and seeing the impact and just kind of the growth of it in such a short period of time, and what it meant to the people who worked there, and also all the kids, seeing the growth that those kids had, it just really, it's just sad that not only did a lot of people lose their jobs, but just a lot of kids are not going to have a place to go. I know a lot of parents can't provide, they can't pay for childcare, which they'll have to do, and in the middle of summer, they were just kind of left with no options. That's really all I have to speak on right now. Thank you.
Who's next? Oh, can I talk to this?
Oh. Hello, my name is Ashley Pistono. I worked at the Marion site at the Boys and Girls Club. I've only been working there 4 months, but I have to say that of all the jobs that I've had, this is a one-in-a-lifetime experience. It's a privilege because these kids, they need somebody to look up to. You know, these parents are struggling to survive, working 3 jobs with nowhere to turn. And these kids need somebody to teach them what their parents are too busy working with. You know, during the summer, they need somewhere to go. These kids, I know, were scared. You know, they said that this is one of the safest places they've ever been to. And I think that closing these places put these kids at dangerous risks with nowhere to go, no supervision, just roaming the neighborhood without parents, you know, being able to control it. Thank you.
My name's Roy Hall, and that's my 2 children sitting over there. I'm a single parent. I had a lot of trouble with their homework, other stuff. They really had nowhere to play. It's in the street, and I don't allow them to do that, you know. Times I could take them to the park and stuff, but my kids has been in the Boys and Girls Club since it opened. When I heard it was open, I immediately went there. And the school, you know, where they was behind on school and stuff like that, they helped them tremendously. And not just with school, with, you know, attitudes, doing the right thing. And from my understanding is, the mayor donated that land to the Boys and Girls Club. I feel like it should come back to man for our children. And you know, if they're not gonna reopen it, then I feel like that land should come back, so we gotta play. I mean, it's a safe spot, they got plenty of room there, and they did a tremendous job with my kids. And my kids are sitting there now, I mean, they wanted to speak, I mean, it's up to them, up to y'all, but basically they're just gonna tell you how they messed the Boys and Girls Club since it's closed. That's all I got to say.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. My name is Nathan Colombo, and I'm a resident of Carbondale, Illinois. And I've come to be a little bit more direct in my criticisms, and I will ask that you not take this as disparaging comments as laid out in Ordinance 3128 in your city code, but as truly criticism of my concern for how this is all played out. Mayor, when you first announced that you were running for office in 2018, this was a key point of your platform to bring the Boys and Girls Club to Marion, a thing that clearly has been a value because of the youth that you see here and the parents that have been served by the Boys and Girls Club in Marion. And I cannot discredit the value that this has brought families in a short time. But what I cannot leave by the wayside is the damage that this is going to do to our community in Carbondale. And to just wonder, what would the situation be had your positions not been, we must have the thing here that Carbondale has there? I'm lucky. My kids aged out of the Boys and Girls Club in such a way that they're able to take care of themselves at home, and we don't need so much the space at the Boys and Girls Club after school to make sure that their mother and I are able to work our jobs. Not everybody is so lucky in our town. I understand that there are a myriad of issues that may have occurred that led to the demise of the Boys and Girls Club as it is structured now. Whether that is misuse and mismanagement of funds, whether that is overstaffing to serve greater needs, whether that is property development and acquisition that may or may not have been the right call at the right time. At the end of the day, these processes, these things would not have occurred if not for the ask of yourself, Mayor, to bring these resources here. You know, I look at what Marion has and I wonder, is something like the Boynton Street Community Center not equipped well enough to serve the children that are over here? Were the resources that already existed in this town, with the wealth that is here, with the strength of community that exists, that is generations and generations strong? This is not a commuter community. This is a community where folks that have created this community have been here for well over a century, right? Where was the strength of that to build something that you all needed for your folks, like these kids here? I'm devastated. There are so many negative outcomes that are going to occur from this. I don't want to see negative outcomes for kids in Marion or kids in Carbondale, but I can't help but think, if it hadn't been for your wants to do this, for whatever purpose you may have had, whether it was personal interest, you know, aggrandizement on yourself, or whether it was truly to help these kids as needed, the outcome doesn't change. And the flashpoint of what brought us here doesn't change. I've been watching this for the 5 years since you began making these statements, Mr. Mayor. I took very keen note of your latest State of the City address when you glazed over the Boys and Girls Club. These issues were not an immediate thing. These were whether short-term, 6 months, or whether long-term, 2 years coming. But they're here now. And the repercussions are things that may affect Marion a little bit, but they're going to affect Carbondale a lot. A lot. With that said, I brought with me a FOIA request that I would like to provide to your FOIA officer this evening, if she would receive them. And I appreciate your time.
What's the FOIA request say?
I can provide this to you. I have two
Read it
copies.
publicly, right?
Oh, yeah, I would be happy to read this publicly. Absolutely. Freedom of Information Act request. Dear FOIA officer, this is a request under the Freedom of Information Act. I request that a digital copy of documents containing the following information be provided to you. All communication in any official capacity exchanged between any elected official and any parties mentioning in whole or in part the Boys and Girls Club of Carbondale, Southern Illinois, its employees, its clientele, and or its board members. 2, all communication in any official capacity exchanged between any city staff and any parties mentioning in whole or in part the Boys and Girls Club of Carbondale, Southern Illinois, its employees, its clientele, and or its board members. Part 3, any available communications FOIA accessible from the city of Marion mentioning in whole or in part the Boys and Girls Club of Carbondale in Southern Illinois, its employees, its clientele, and or its board members. If requests are considered voluminous in nature, please advise the scope of request that the City of Marion's FOIA officer may consider reasonable to furnish. Thank you for your consideration of this request. Do you wish for a physical copy?
Sure.
Thank you.
Now you stand right there. Stand back up there when you're done,
Absolutely.
because I'm gonna address you. You laying this at my feet, either personally or professionally, is not just wrong, it's really wrong. Now, maybe somehow my desire to see something good start in Marion from this has offended you, and for that, if that offends you, I'm sorry. Relative to this FOIA request, the city hasn't funded Boys and Girls Club, if that's what you're getting at, in any way, form, or fashion. I have, as has my wife, significantly. The last person on the planet that would want to see that organization fail would be me, for very personal reasons. So I absolutely 110% resent you coming up here in public forum and accusing me of anything, because I've done nothing but give time and treasure to that organization, and a lot of treasure. So you're full of shit. Sit down. Please.
I will be exiting your chambers. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And for the young people in the room, I'm so sorry to use the language, but I don't know how else to put it. Who's next? Anyone?
I got a question. I didn't come up there and ask it, I guess. Of course, it's over money and this and that, I understand that. But was the money taken? I mean, is this gonna be under investigation? Because from my understanding, the state and the government gives grants to the Boys and Girls Club. I mean, that's what I was told. But my question is about this money, supposedly a bunch is gone or something, is what I got the understanding of. Are there gonna be an investigation into this?
I can't answer that, sir. I don't have any, I'm not on that board. I don't know what they will or won't do. The status of the club, as I understand it right now, and this is what I've been told and what I've communicated, is that they are trying to assess their situation more closely. I think a lot of this information came up suddenly and very recently, as you're very well aware.
Yes.
Their desire, I have talked to a couple of the board members, their desire is to restart services at some point in the future. I don't think they think that's possible immediately, or they wouldn't have obviously made the decisions that they did. I hope that if they can kind of find a sustainability plan, whatever that looks like, I hope I will be able to be in a position to help them financially and otherwise to restart those services. To your questions, those are best directed towards those board members. I can't answer that. That's
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Anybody else? Again, I apologize for my language. That was a big, okay. Should I wait to apologize till you're done? Just in case something else comes up? That's the biggest load of horse crap I've ever heard in my life.
evening, Mayor.
Hi.
It seems somebody has Carmen's attitude today. I am so sorry. However, I am so saddened by it because, as you know, that's what I like to do, community service. And I was wondering if in some way, I see the Boyd Street is here too, is that maybe Boyd Street can help out or partner with, because I realize it's going to be a empty building and maybe some services, because Boyd Street obviously isn't large enough for that capacity to even, but I'm just throwing that idea out there so that perhaps you can continue to serve the children here that need to be served. And I'm just throwing it out, that's all the comment I have. It's a sad day indeed.
Well, again, Carmen, I don't know the answer to that, and those aren't my decisions to make relative to that facility. Boys and Girls Club, while they have ceased their services, they still own the building, they still have the desire to reopen those services, or so I am told. How that might interact with Boynton Street, I know that we were partnering with them on some meal preparation and some other items. So I know that you sent a very nice email, Stephanie, on that. So I know that relationship exists. Frankly, with their letting go of the staff, I'm not even sure who to ask at this point, how that continues. Maybe Stephanie has some insight into that other than board members who are scrambling.
I was just really speaking about the building itself, or either they're gonna abdicate it, I don't know. I was just throwing an idea out there, but it's just sad that we have nowhere to house all these additional bodies.
I agree.
And that's all, I'm gonna sit down.
Anybody else? My blood pressure's about 200 over 150 right now. Can you tell? Are my ears red?
Yep.
Are they blood red? Anybody got a good joke? Nobody's got a good joke? It could be, has to be a clean joke.
Japan and had a great time.
That's not a joke.
I know, but it's a good statement.
Okay. All right, we'll move on. I'm gonna take a short nap back here under the desk and try to get my blood pressure down. One of the things I've looked forward on this meeting, for those of you on the council will recall, I was gone a month ago on this meeting, the second meeting of the month, and that's because I was a part of a contingent of people from Marion that included 4 out of the 5 students that went on the trip for a 10-year-old program that's known as the Sister City Relationship with Kanye-town, Japan. That's intended to be a cultural exchange. I'm not sure I even completely understood exactly that until we were there. And what a cultural exchange it was. So I think the reason my wife wanted to be here is and listen to the kids, I shouldn't say kids, the young people that experienced this, is that we could tell palpably what a impact this had on all of you, on your time there. And we just didn't want to keep that experience to just ourselves. And so we invited them to come speak at tonight's council meeting and tell you a little bit about their particular experience. And so which one of you would like to go first? We've got storyboards, it looks like, and the whole shebang. I guess I can go. All right. This is Logan Arnold. I will tell you that Logan was very popular with the ladies in Japan. He had an entourage around him at all moments. Did you not, sir?
No, that sums
It
up.
was an impressive thing to watch,
Yeah,
young man.
that was definitely a benefit of the trip, but yeah, it was an amazing experience. I'm really glad I had the opportunity. To me, the best part of the trip was just meeting all the people. People there are very kind. They took me in very quickly. There was a situation with COVID where my host called, he had COVID, so I had to switch houses, and who was in charge of the guy in charge of the program, right? Yeah, but his family took me in about a couple hours. They had little time to prepare, but they took me in very quickly. They're very respectful. I enjoyed them very much, and it was great just to try so many new things. I tried new food, saw so many new places, new architecture, and it was great to learn a lot of Japanese history. It's an amazing experience. And I think this trip's definitely inspired me to travel more. I think I'm kind of interested in studying abroad now, just, yeah. And what else? Yeah, I definitely want to go back to Japan now too, just because all the relationships I have there. And one of the best parts of the trip was I met a Japanese foreign exchange student my sophomore year, and we became very good friends. So he kind of got me interested in Japanese culture and made me want to travel there. So I'm really glad that I had the opportunity, and I got to meet him while I was there. We were reunited after 1 year, and he showed me around, and yeah, had a great time. I think that's all.
You wanna show us what some of the
Sure.
pictures were?
Yeah, so this is me and my friend in front of Nagoya Castle, and there's a lot of history there. And then I was inside Nagoya Castle in this picture. This is outside my host family's home, so you can see kind of some architecture there. And I was really surprised. I went to visit another temple, because we got to visit two temples. I visited one just outside Nagoya, and I got to ring the gong, which is not very common. You only ring that on New Year's, I think about 180 times or so. And then it was also interesting. I got to speak in front of all the junior high students. Like, I had to do a lot of speaking while I was there, which I'm not used to, so that was interesting. And this is me with my host family. As you can see, I was trying a lot of new food. That was very interesting. And this is me and my host mother on the cultural exchange bench, so that's a good photo. And this is a model of the Tsunare Festival boat, which is a festival every August in Kane. And this is me and my friend Shun in front of a shrine just outside Nagoya.
Logan, I have a question.
Yeah.
You said you spoke in front of the junior high class, right? What percentage of them could speak English?
I think quite a bit.
Really?
Yeah, because I was in a classroom all day and they could pretty much communicate pretty easily. Like there was like some like parts where they didn't know how to communicate, but yeah, it's pretty easy.
What grade level are you?
What?
What levels? What grade are you in?
I'm a senior this year. Upcoming senior.
Okay, who's next? Ready?
Hi, my name is Maddie Diders. I would first off like to thank everyone that's involved with this project. I had a wonderful time there. It was so amazing. Throughout my life, I've learned different snippets of Japanese culture through meeting different people. My family has hosted exchange students that came and stayed in Marion for many, many years, since the very beginning. So I've always enjoyed learning that, but I've never truly seen the full picture. Everyone there is so nice, and their hospitality is unmatched, truly. Some of the things that really stuck out to me as an experience is I really, really enjoyed seeing the difference between Japanese school and American school. We got to visit the junior high school and the elementary school, and one of the things that was very, very different is that all the students, they learn to serve and they learn to clean as well. They don't have any janitors or any cooks. They do that all as the students as part of the educational system. And I think that really shows in their culture as well, how they're all really willing to help out at a moment's notice. Some of the pictures that I have here, I have a lot from the welcome party on the top. It was wonderful to see old friends and to make new ones there and really connect with people that were my age, because we're not all that different, really. I got to try some sports. I got to try lots of new foods. One thing that, again, as Logan had said, we had to go and speak in front of all of the students at the beginning of visiting the junior high school. And that morning before, my host family, they had taken the time to help write down in English how to introduce myself in Japanese, how to say just a couple phrases. And that little act was so nice to see, just as a small thing. That's kind of all I wanted to speak about. So, any questions?
I guess their schools go year round, I guess, if their schools was active in the summer, I guess.
Yes, I think they take a month off in the spring and a month off in the fall. But,
Are you a senior also?
I'm an upcoming junior.
So you guys might recall that Maddie has done several murals around town, and she is going to be doing a Sister City mural for us. We discussed it on the side of New City Hall, which is in Print Avenue. There's a staircase out there now and a couple parking places for the merchants, which they've asked if we could do something to dress that wall up, because it's just a great big plain wall, and that's where Maddie and I discussed her putting her Sister City mural. As you recall, her offer to do that in exchange for us helping sponsor a little bit more of the costs of these students going to Japan in the first place, which I thought was very innovative and entrepreneurial for you to do so, and very kind for your fellow students. So we appreciate you and all of that, and thank you. Appreciate it. Who's next?
Just the mic a little bit. Just a little short. Hello. Starting off, I just wanted to say, like, if I stumble, like, with my words or anything, I'm really sorry. I'm not very good when it comes to, like, public speaking and that kind of thing. And I also just got back from, like, band camp, which went from, like, 9 to 4 in the hot blazing sun. So I'm pretty tired right now, but I'll try my best. First of all, I wanted to thank the Chamber of Commerce for making this trip possible and for sustaining this relationship that we've had even through like all of the trials of like COVID and all of that. Because I agree with the idea that like this kind of relationship that we have, especially across the sea and like so far here, it's a really important connection in my opinion. Because I made a lot of connections that I think are gonna stay throughout my lifetime because of this trip. And I also wanted to thank my mom for being really supportive through this process. The trip. The first day we got there, we got to do like a welcoming party, and that was really cool. They had a lot of food, and there was a lot of people there that were really happy to like see us and greet us when we got there. And I have a couple of pictures from the party. This is a picture of me with my host sister, and you can see a little bit of my host brother in the back. That's Kishiro, and this is Yana, and that's her friend. So this was a picture that I took at the welcoming party, and I took a lot of photography while I was there, and it was really cool to be able to see all of like the art and architecture as a part of like learning their culture there. And another thing that stood out to me that's like kind of along the lines of art is my host mom worked at a kimono shop, and she gave me the incredible opportunity to be able to wear this. It was a beautiful like gold, white, and black kimono, and it was a really fun experience to be able to try it on and like participate in that part of their culture, because in Japan, whenever they turn 20, it's considered like a coming of age ceremony where they wear a kimono and they have a celebration of going into adulthood, and that really stood out to me, and I thought it was really cool. So it was really special to be able to partake in that and kind of consider it as like my own like I don't know, coming of age thing, since I'm going into my senior year, which is crazy, because going into COVID I was in 8th grade, and then now here I am like about to be an adult, so that's pretty crazy. My host family was really sweet. I bonded a lot with them, and a couple of things that really stood out to me was like obviously the art and the culture, as well as the food. The food was really, really good. And yeah, and one more thing that I think that I really enjoyed, and I think I'm gonna miss about Japan, that I don't know if anybody else who went on the trip will agree with me here, but the toilets, the toilets there were like really good. You know, they have like they even have like a privacy audio button that you can choose. And that's in all of the public toilets too, and that was pretty crazy to me. So yeah, I don't know if any of you have like questions.
It's hard to appreciate unless you've been there.
Yeah. I might be able to upload some of my photography that I took there on Facebook. You can find it by my name, Lillian Sergino. That's another photo I took. I have a lot say with the truth.
Well, thank you for sharing. Charlotte?
Jared, I think we should look into those toilets at the pavilion.
They are
I'll
amazing.
talk a little bit about it.
They're amazing.
Okay, that might come in handy.
Your butt is really catered to.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Arnold. Logan's my brother. I have a twin sister, but she's afraid of flying, so she didn't get to be part of the experience. But, you know, I guess she had fun for that week. I'm the oldest person on this trip, not who was a student. I'm 20 years old. I'm going to be a junior in college. But I'm very fortunate that I got to go because I was expecting to go pre-COVID. So it means a lot that Jerry reached out to me and was like, hey, do you want to still go on the trip? And I was like, really? But it was a little awkward being a 20-year-old in a junior high school. So, you know, pros and cons of it, but it was a super great experience. My host mom spoke really good English, so we could conversate and she could translate between me and the family so we could get to know each other better. I really enjoyed the days where we didn't have structured things to do. I think those were probably my favorite, just spending time with my host family. One day we went to a fish market, which, you know, kind of gross, but also kind of cool to see all the varieties of fish and how they keep all these live fish. You can buy them and you cut their heads off. So great. And then we went to eat fish, so, you know, it was probably the best fish, though. I will say there was a lot of food. I went, I was like, open mind, I'm gonna eat everything. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna finish everything, but I'll eat everything. And I ate a lot of things I'll probably never eat again, like raw eel. It's too meaty, weirdly enough. It's fish, but it's also meat. Kind of weird. But yeah, also if my face is getting more red than the mayor's ears were, I'm not gonna die. I just have terrible flushness. So, you know.
I'm so flattered that you noticed.
I got it from my dad. His face also turns bright red when his blood pressure gets high, which is all the time. Like, that's beside the point. Back to the trip. We're not talking about that anymore. I did enjoy going to the schools to see what they were like, though. Taking part in classes, I really felt like I was gaining nothing because they were just speaking in Japanese. I was like, yeah, this worksheet's in Japanese. A lot of students were very apt to help me, though, so it was kind of like I was participating in the class. And it's just really great how they always try and bring you in on stuff. And they're just so welcoming you into their culture and trying to tell you more about it, even if they don't have the words in English. They try with gestures. And it's just very, very great experience. And I do hope to go back someday, maybe speaking a little better Japanese. I did learn on Duolingo, and I did get compliments that my Japanese sounded like Japanese when I spoke it, so.
I have been watching you on Duolingo for like literally the past year, and I always just see notifications of like your checkpoints, and I'm like, oh, Charlotte.
But yeah, there's also this very fun little cultural experience where we got to weave this straw together into, into this wreath that you see at the bottom. We got to actually do that ourselves as part of a group, and it was super fun to learn how to do, although very tiring on the hands. Any questions?
Can you speak a sentence in Japanese for us?
I bet she can.
Here's my default. Konnichiwa, namae wa Charlotte Arnold-san. 20歳。
Don't stress, we won't know the difference.
But I would be being dishonest, and the Duolingo owl would come for my knees. So, but yeah, that's basically, I said, hello, my name is Charlotte Arnold, and I'm 22 years old.
Good job.
Or 20 years old. I'm not 22 years old. I'm 20. I'm not even 21.
So you lied in Japanese?
No, I said Japanese. Okay, I'm not
Charlotte.
On camera.
Don't follow me to the Duolingo owl.
This is a matter of public record.
According to this ID I have, because
Pretty sure this meeting's going viral.
I hope so. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Part of the reason that I wanted these students to speak is that we, if I understand right, the next August, 13 months from now, is we're going to be on the receiving end of this delegation, and their plan right now is to bring 12 students with them. They do things differently in Japan from a city standpoint, which was fascinating to learn about their school system. The city controls the school system up through the 9th grade. That's what they call middle school. The state or the prefecture controls 10th through 12th grade at it's a little bit different, but what we call the high school level. So they will be bringing some younger students with them versus the age students that we took in our delegation. But one of the things that we have to start lining up is 12 host families. And so I was hoping that people would see just how impacted our students were by their experience, so that other people in the community would have plenty of time to prayerfully consider whether that's something they would like to do. It is a commitment, but it's life-changing, and it's certainly life-changing to the students that we potentially host. And Jared, I think you wanted to get up and talk as well, you said? So, okay, please. Did I steal your thunder on that? Was that what you?
No, it's okay.
Are you really gonna talk about toilets?
I'm gonna talk about toilets.
I cannot wait.
So I just want to give a little background for those at home that are watching and for those of you that are here. So the program started 10 years ago, and it's a cultural exchange program. And I don't know if you zoomed in at all on the camera, but on the kids' storyboards, I know when I go on vacation oftentimes by myself because I'm single, and I'll take pictures of buildings and the landscaping and those kinds of things. But the kids' pictures all have people in them, which is what it's all about. It's a cultural exchange program. It's about building the relationships and furthering the relationships. As I mentioned, it's 10 years old, so it started 10 years ago here, and we're really growing the program. I'm sort of putting the kids on the spot, but I would like you to leave your storyboards here so that city council can look at them a little closer after the meeting, because it's kind of hard, to see. And then August 8th, you all are coming to present similar to the chamber luncheon. So we'll just bring those to you at the luncheon on the 8th, and then you can have them after that if you want them back. For a little more history, so it's a cultural exchange program. We take adults and we take students. The students stay with host families, as we mentioned. The adults don't stay with host families. We stay in hotels. We have the more business, cultural aspect of it, and the students have the more real life version of what it would be like to be Japanese and live in Japan. So just to kind of clarify that, because it wasn't necessarily spelled out for everybody, so hopefully everyone understands how the program works. For those watching at home, if you would like to be a host family, we would love to have you as a host family. Please reach out to me at the Pavilion, Jared at thepavilionevents.com. We would love to hook you up. If any city council members have any friends or family that would like to be host families, that you can have them reach out to me. I can explain in way more depth than I'm going into right now about how the program works. And it's many of the host families from before continue to be host families. Some of them have even done it after their children have sort of aged out. It's an incredible experience. They will all tell you that it's an incredible life-changing experience. It's, especially as Americans, we're oftentimes hesitant to just let strangers come into our home for a week. But by the end of that week, they're no longer strangers, and they really consider the kids part of their own families. And we will usually have like a farewell ceremony also when they come here. And when you see the tears that are shed by the Americans and by the Japanese people, it's really an incredible experience. I know, please don't hate me for this, but I know that most of the kids cried really hard when they left Japan, as we were leaving Japan.
Me and my family, we kind of had our own farewell party.
Yeah.
The night
And they had, you guys had your own farewell party the night before.
We
Yeah.
had, like, sparklers and cake, and we were all
Yeah.
crying. It was really sad.
But it's real. I mean, it's so hard to explain, and it's so hard until you've like really experienced it. But it's such a deep emotional connection that we typically as Americans don't have with each other. And I mean, I guess it's probably the best way to.
We kind of to add on with how much of an impact we make. My host family, I think Logan's host family also let us hug them goodbye, which is a very thing they do in their culture. So it just really shows how close we were with them in those few days.
Yeah.
My host family kind of
Yeah. So for funding, the city pays for a portion of the Citrus City program, and the Marion Chamber of Commerce pays for a portion of the program. And it's a shameless plug, but if you're a business or an individual and you'd like to donate, we would also greatly accept your money to the Marion Chamber of Commerce Foundation, which is a tax deductible donation. But since Lily brought up the toilet seats, I wanted to explain the toilet seats so it's really clear to everyone. So at Ison Manufacturing here in Marion, they make the toilet seats that they're electronic and they have buttons. So there's a bidet. It'll play music if you want to play music. They're really high-tech toilet seats, and which I would not normally have talked about, but since Lily mentioned it, I wanted to kind of explain the toilet seats. And they really are amazing. And that's a big part of the Japanese culture now. They didn't used to use toilets that were like ours, but they do now. So, and I'll just leave it at that. Do you all have any questions for me? You can't go to Ison and buy the toilets and stuff, but they are manufactured in Marion, which I think is awesome.
Thank you.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say it would also be nice if we could get like the stalls that they have, because I've also been to Europe and their stalls are like, they're so like nice, because there's no like space between the doors and the floor and everything. It's,
Oh, and they're so much cleaner. Also,
Yeah.
than I mean, that's a whole nother story. For all of us.
Last thing, young people of Marion, that I'm gonna ask is that, as I don't know if you were necessarily part of the conversation, all the conversations that we had on the way back, but this was the first exchange since I've been elected mayor in 2019. They came here in 2018. By the time it was our turn to go back, COVID was in full force, and so this was the first exchange that we've had since 2018. And incidentally, the first time that the mayor of Marion has visited Japan, although the mayor from there visited here in 2018 and maybe before. I'm not sure if he's been here twice. So one of the things that we have to work on, in my opinion, after experiencing their hospitality and graciousness that we were just overwhelmed with, I think you would agree, is that we kind of have to up our game, in my opinion, on how we treat them when they get here. And so part of what we're going to be asking you in your busy schedules as we have some meetings over the course of the next few months is your input on how we could make, based on your experience, what we need to do for the young people that come in that exchange program next year, so that we can make sure that we're providing them with the kinds of things that you think they would benefit from. So I hope you're open to having some continued conversations with us over this next few months, if not full year, as we prepare to host the contingent from Kanye. And I very much appreciate you guys coming here tonight and sharing your experience with us.
I should probably say one more thing. I can go back to the microphone.
Depends what you're gonna say.
So as she touched on, we had our tickets purchased and everything in 2020 to go, and we were supposed to go in April, and then the world shut down in March, so we refunded all of our money. But normally we don't take 20-year-olds or 21-year-olds. Normally it's junior high or high school students that we take over there, but because of COVID and the devastating impact that it had on everybody in the world and on the trip, we extended the offer back to all of the students that were supposed to go before. Only two of them, because they're older, were able to go, that sort of had aged out. Bree Lorimer is also one of them. She was not able to be here tonight, but I do have her board, which I will leave for you also to look at. And then if you have any questions on their boards, please just let me know.
Now that my ears are about at least one shade lighter than they were, I'm going to address this last issue before we move on to the meeting, if you can allow me, counsel, the opportunity to do so, because I feel like I've been personally indicted by this jerk from Carbondale. But there's some kernels of truth in what he said that it sounds like is being turned into some sort of contorted conspiracy theory. So I want to set the record straight, both permanently on this video, which I think will be up for for a long time, and certainly to each person in this room, so that there's no misunderstanding about this. Because he can FOIA anything he wants. City of Marion hasn't been a part of the Boys and Girls Club in any way, financially or otherwise. When I ran for mayor, what I said was I did not want one dime of your taxpayer money as my salary. By ordinance, the mayor is allowed a privilege of a salary of $50,000, and I said I didn't want it. I said I would rather see that money be used to start a Boys and Girls Club here in Marion, which I had visited in Carbondale and was very impressed with. Now, I've taken a lot of grief over that. As a matter of fact, somebody at Boynton Street that's not officially involved with it said, we want that money. So there's been a little bit of contention there between Boynton Street. That was never my intention whatsoever. Matter of fact, I don't even consider their programs to be identical, and really, maybe there's some similarities, but it's a completely different program in my mind anyway, overlap or not. Now, I think literally what I said is let's use that $200,000, $50,000 times 4 years in office to bring that club to Marion. Now, when I got here, my intention was don't pay me, pay them. That made sense to me. Now, when I got here and was elected, the treasurer explained to me that because I was controlling that amount of money, regardless if I didn't take it, I'd have to pay taxes on it. Well, that really didn't make any sense, and I wasn't about to do that. So I said, fine, don't pay me. And my wife and I have donated that amount and more, much more, to the Boys and Girls Club personally. Not only have I not taken the mayor's salary, but that's come out of the blood, sweat, and tears of all the people at Watermark that worked so hard to make my family money. So the concept that this jerk gets up here and indicts me is so offensive that I just can't stand here and not explain myself to you. And if you can't figure it out by now, this whole debacle with Boys and Girls Club, I'm somewhere between mad and sad, back and forth, over and over the last 2 weeks that I've figured out what's going to happen. But here's the thing, it's not over. It doesn't have to be over, but the board needs an opportunity to figure out what's happened. They've run out of funding. They need to regroup. I know that's putting some people out, but this council didn't cause it, this city didn't cause it, and I didn't cause it. I'm willing to help, and I've offered, and my wife has offered additional financial support, and it wasn't enough. So I feel like I need to set the record straight. I'm sorry if I had a little bit of an outburst there, but I've done this job for free for over 4 years at this point, and with the intention of that money serving to start a Boys and Girls Club here in Marion. And despite my best intentions, that's not what happened, but I made good on my promise and much, much, much more in order to see that club be started here. It breaks my heart that they've run into what I hope is temporary trouble, but I'll be damned if I'm going to sit up there and let that jerk from Carbondale indict my character over it. All right, let's move on. Can't find my glasses. Sit on my red ears.
Yeah, so we're gonna slide out.
Okay, we'll let some of our guests who want to. Cheryl, you can't leave. You don't want to stay? Awesome. I'm just kidding. We'll move on to our consent agenda, which consists of items A and B and several sub-items. Anybody on the council want any item or sub-item removed from the consent agenda and voted upon with a separate vote? Would anybody from our audience and our guests like any of these items voted upon separately? Hearing no objections or requests to remove, I would entertain a motion to pass the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda items A1, A1 and B as presented.
I'll second that.
say for clarity, there's A1, 2, and 3. The bold didn't carry over there on the agenda, but is that what you intended?
Yes.
Okay, any discussions on any of these items or sub-items? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. All right, under new business, under public works, we've got a whole host of sanitary sewer and sewer main and water projects, it looks like here. So this is your show, Commissioner Stecklin.
All right. You want to preface this?
Anything you need.
Go ahead. If you want to get in any of in the weeds.
It's actually, we're really only looking at two separate things here. A is a separate project, B, C, D, and E are dealing with the same project, the sewer rehabilitation. We could start with A. A is a job that we've been in need of replacing a sewer line on Liberty Street down here, just north of Main Street for some time. We've maintained this line through request of the local businesses there. We finally got to the end of where we could maintain it properly, so it needs to be replaced. We collected a couple of bids for this job, one from BC Contracting and the other was SW Line. Both are very similar. The low bid was $43,000. I've got to learn to bring my glasses. $45,270. The other bid was $49,050 for that same work. We're going to recommend accepting the low bid on that. If there's any questions, I can answer those about that project.
Did you make a motion?
You want these all done separate?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they have to be, don't these need to be all separate motions?
Okay.
Yeah, we
All
have
right.
on the agenda that one.
Then I'd make a motion that we approve the low bid from BC Contracting for $45,270 for sewer main replacement on North Liberty Street using HUB TIF funds.
I'll second.
Any questions, discussion on this? This is on the south end of North, I mean, it's on the main,
From Main
just
Street-
north of Main Street, right?
north, yes.
Okay, I know I've heard that line being talked about a lot in the
Yeah,
past.
it's been a thorn in our side for some time. We've maintained it with some success, but now the line is basically is deteriorated enough we're having trouble maintaining it, so it's time to replace that line. And Cody made available some TIF funds to do that work, so it's funded through that.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item B, 6B.
6B, C, and D are all part of our sewer rehabilitation project we've been working on for, I would say, over 3 years. They're separated into 3 contracts, B, C, and D, just for simplicity and the differences in what that type of work was. We have bid B is by far the largest portion of that is the rehabilitation, the relinings of sanitary sewer lines, relinings of manhole to prevent infiltration and inflow into the system. This is a big start to an even larger project that we're going to have in the years to come, but this is going to get us started improving those old sewer lines. It's some of the oldest lines in town, some of them close to or over 100 years old. So they're in desperate need of attention, and this first part of that is the low bid for Scuda Construction to do the relining on that.
And can you explain to everybody the difference between replacement and what we're doing here?
Well, the lining is basically you're not doing any excavation whatsoever. You're not disturbing the road in any way, shape, or form. You're basically slipping a new line inside of an existing sanitary line from a manhole to a manhole without disturbing any of the road, without any of that concrete replacement, backfilling and all that stuff. It's basically a brand new joint-free line from manhole to manhole. And we reinsert all the taps that are on that line and that are coming into it, just reinsert all those businesses and homes.
Rick, what percentage of all the lines that need to be done, is this 10% of it, half of it, or is
Well, I get that, asked that question a lot, and we're still trying to develop an overall study of the entire town, but you know, you're probably, I would hate to say it's 10%, because that's a $40 million job, and that sounds big, but, you know, we're making a big leap here with going radially from the treatment plant on some of the oldest, biggest lines. These are gonna be some of the most expensive ones to do. I'm hoping going forward that we're gonna spend a lot more money, but I'll say that. But we're not gonna take any more huge bites like this for some time. We're gonna have the cash flow to be able to rehab lines as we know they're needed. If that makes sense.
Yeah, kind of get worse and worse.
Yeah, it's a big step in the right direction to start this. And the difference is, you know, this is relining and rehabilitation. The next item, C, is replacement of inadequate sanitary sewers in town and making them more usable by the customers in the areas.
You know, one thing I wanted to point out, and this dovetails into the last item on the agenda that I'll bring up a little bit later, but all of these projects and expenditures therein are anticipated to the point that we set aside a certain part of every water bill for debt service. So when we talk about borrowing these big sum of monies, Brent has got a very long and detailed 10 or more year debt service plan,
Yes.
really longer than that, laid out. These were all anticipated, it's all needed. This isn't causing anybody's taxes to go up in of themselves. Your water bill is already set to cover.
All these projects are funded through the water and sewer bills.
Right.
And this one in
So-
particular is the sewer bill, it's separate from the water. So, the debt service was raised last year, I guess?
Yes.
To fund this, so you've already seen it on the bill. We actually have reserves in that account, which helps go forward with future projects that we've got money available to do rehabilitation projects, and it's earmarked just for that.
And lastly, my comment before we act on these is, the irresponsible thing to do is to wait until all this stuff just completely falls apart and not tackle it. Brent has been very, I'll just put it as proactive in pushing us to take on these projects before our infrastructure gets to that point. So I feel like the town is being, looking forward instead of just putting out fires every
And when I
place.
said we've been working on it for 3 years, and that's just because this administration has allowed us to do this.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this for a decade, knowing that this is coming, that we have to do something, so, this is a great opportunity to get started.
Yeah, I just wanted to explain that because it seems like in the newspapers and stuff, when they show that we're borrowing X amount of millions, we've known about this for a long time. It's accounted for, it is already paid for in our current rate structure. So it's not really a surprise or anything sprung upon us. It's a planned
It is.
rehab of our sewer and water infrastructure. Sorry to take your thunder there.
You're good. All right, so I'd make a motion to approve the low bid of $3,999,667 from Scuda Construction for sewer relining and rehabilitation, a component of the sewer rehabilitation project.
Second that.
Any other questions or further comments or discussion? Item 6B. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item 6C.
6C, now that is a separate contract that we've gone into areas of town where the sanitary sewers are inadequate, they weren't put in properly to begin with. We have insufficient capacity in these areas. There's a whole list of these projects all over town that we deemed that were a priority. So those were the ones that were bid in this job. And I think we only had one bid. We had a few pickup plans for this job, but we only had one bid from Wiggs Excavating for $1,032,426. And I would suggest we just accept that bid.
All right, then I'd make the motion to approve the low bid of $1,032,426 from Wiggs Excavating for sanitary sewer replacement, a component of the sewer rehabilitation project.
Second that.
Brent, is it, we've noticed a trend here, not just on this kind of stuff, but some water line replacements too. is there just not as many contractors in the
There's a
business
lot of
at this
work.
point, or there's just too much
There's
work?
about the same number of contractors, but there's just so much work.
Okay.
A lot of money's coming down from IEPA to replace water lines, replace sewer lines. Rebuild Illinois, just shoved a lot of money into these communities, and there's only so many contractors in this area. And even this first item here, we've got a couple of contractors here, BC Contracting and Josh with S&W. They're kind of upstarts. They've kind of branched off and they're trying to get into the water and sewer business, so we're happy to see things like that. Now, they couldn't bond some of these bigger jobs, but as they come in and they start with doing some water and sewer main work for us, that's gonna be a plus. I mean, obviously, the more bidders we get, the better. When a guy comes in with one envelope and doesn't see anybody else in the room, it's pretty encouraging to him that he's gonna get that job. I think it's basically just the sheer amount of work in the area, the whole southern Illinois area that's causing some of this.
Any other questions on item 6C? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item 6D.
And 6D was kind of lumped in with this since we were going to be borrowing money for this. We have actually two wastewater treatment plants in the same proximity down there off of South Market. We replaced a screen at the west plant 2 or 3 years ago, and we're making that same improvement at the east plant. We've had such good success with that new screening mechanism that we have a separate contract to replace that piece of equipment lumped into this loan. And once again, we had one bid to do that, so. Midwest Petroleum and Excavating is a large contractor. They build complete sanitary sewer plants and probably water plants too. He's a big contractor. So we're fortunate to get him on this job, but I would recommend approving the $584,000 bid from Midwest Petroleum.
Can you, I know this is a little separate, but I was talking to Todd about the new thing we're gonna be doing for odor control.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's fascinating. You care if we speak on that just a second before we bid on it?
Does that have to do with this specific item?
No.
Can we discuss it afterward? We should
Yes.
get this
Yes.
dispensed with?
We can. It was just on the sewer plan, so I wanted to. Okay.
Well,
Okay.
it's more for me, so I don't lose my place.
Okay.
Just make a motion on
Then I'll make a
6D.
motion to approve the low bid of $584,000 from Midwest Petroleum and Excavating for the east wastewater treatment plant screen replacement component of the sewer rehab project.
Second.
Any questions or discussion on item 6D? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay, okay, go ahead with
Okay,
that.
sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah,
Just
Just in speaking with Todd about a new piece of equipment and some new technology, I think because it's something that we've dealt with in the city for decades, and that is when it gets warm outside, sometimes you can notice when you're traveling to the sewer plant. I think this is a big step forward, I think.
From the pilot study we saw, yes, it looks like it's gonna be effective. We have to figure out some things as far as covering that headworks without violating any electrical codes. There's, a lot of explosion-proof things that have to go along with that, but the equipment itself seemed to be pretty impressive. I mean, it's
Because
an
we
oxidizer.
piloted this already.
Yeah, we already piloted it, did some testing on the atmosphere, seemed to be very effective. We just gotta put it into a full-scale process now. We've got a little bit of an engineering feat to overcome to cover that headwork to make it structurally sound and all that.
And my understanding is our chemical need will drastically
And better, yeah.
reduce.
Well, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
The cost of this project will probably approach $200,000. But we're gonna see a 2 or 3 year payback in chemical savings probably. We spend a lot of money on chemicals to try to knock down that odor, and it's just simply not always 100% effective. I mean, everybody knows that. But fairness to us, we've spent a lot of money, we've done a lot of research on different things. This new technology, I wouldn't even say it's a new technology, but it's something that's never been brought to us before. But once we saw what it did in the pilot study, I think it's gonna be, I never wanna say anything's 100%, but it's gonna be very effective.
That's it. So,
Okay, item 6E.
6E just basically is the funding mechanism, it looks like, for all B, C, and D. That is the IEPA revolving loan fund program that we've got. It outlines the total amount of money we're gonna borrow, $6,437,000 and some change. The good news is, once we got into this and other projects throughout the state we're not ready to, I guess, do. There was some additional funds available, so we're actually getting close to $2 million, $1.9 million in debt forgiveness. That's basically free money. So, the total loan that we'll have to pay back is $4.5 million, which lines up really closely to what we originally thought we were gonna be paying back when we raised the debt service. It seems coincidental, but, it worked out. And the rate on the bond is 0.93%. Because we're a small community, the rates are normally low anyway, but getting something down under 1% is pretty impressive to be able to borrow money at that rate.
Do they have any more loan? 0.93?
Yeah, no kidding. Well, there'll be more. We'll be up here
Yeah.
in a couple of months talking about another big one, but, and it'll be a few years out in the future when we have to do that, but.
Okay.
All right, so I make a motion to approve the IEPA Water Pollution Control Loan Agreement for the sanitary sewer rehabilitation project with IEPA funding, a total of $6,437,675.79, with $1,931,302.74 in debt forgiveness, leaving $4,506,373.05 loaned at a simple annual interest rate of 0.93%.
Second that.
Okay, any other questions on item 6E? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton?
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick?
Yay.
Commissioner Webb?
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland?
Yay.
Mayor Absher?
Yay. Item 7A, Commissioner Barwick. Thank you, Brett.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the recommendation of myself and Chief Fitz to purchase a 2022 Ford Explorer from Jim Hayes to replace the recently totaled Ford Explorer at a cost of $41,300 minus the insurance claim amount of $20,763. And this is a budget item. We didn't plan to buy it this early, but
I was gonna ask how we planned to total an Explorer. We just planned to buy an
that
Explorer,
wasn't our
right?
plan.
Okay.
No, actually, there wasn't a plan to buy another vehicle.
Well, how
I
is that?
overestimated how much that the vehicles were gonna cost us based on what we paid last year.
So it's within the budget, it's not
Yes, sir.
necessarily budgeted?
That is correct.
Okay, got it. Okay. That was your motion, right?
Yes.
Was there a second?
Not yet.
I'll second.
Doug? Any questions? Are you planning on totaling any more?
I didn't plan on them totaling this one.
Oh, you didn't total it?
No, sir.
Okay.
You would have known if it had been me.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton?
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick?
Yay.
Commissioner Webb?
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland?
Yay.
Mayor Absher?
Yay. Do you have something else?
No, sir.
Okay. Cody wants to talk about items A and D, please.
Okay, so item A, as the residential homeowner version of the TIF 1 grant has started to wind down. I know I announced in May that we were virtually out of money. I have had one grantee decline after they were approved, which kind of makes up for some of the money on this list. But I did have 3 other applications come in after the fact that were complete, projects were done, that sort of thing. And so I'm inclined, because we have the money available, to approve those. Full transparency, we have told some folks that didn't have the work completed yet, that we were out of funds at that time, various times over the last, 2 months, I guess. But considering that they came in shortly after I had made that announcement and they had the work completed, and as you can tell, they've invested several $1,000s in their homes, I'm inclined to ask you all for some additional funds to complete those grants to the tune of, it could be as much as $15,000 or as little as $15,000, or we could approve a little more, allowing for some additional funds in there. But my ask today, I think I put in the explanation 25, but it would just be for $15,020.91 to make those additional 3 grants.
Cody, the folks that we told no, my concern is,
Absolutely.
should be relatively obvious.
Yeah.
Or you brought it up. But
Yeah.
did those people have, was it just a question at that point in time, or did they have completed applications and complete projects?
I can't say with full confidence either one of those scenarios. Most of the time, I've just been asked questions. I've not been brought a physical application with completed before and after pictures, all that sort of thing. So,
But these did?
But these did, correct. Correct.
Okay. I just don't want there to be hurt feelings and people
I-
mad at you
I
or
fully
council or
understand.
anything else, so I'm just trying to get my head around that a little bit.
I fully understand.
I'll make a motion so we can discuss it. I'll make a motion to approve additional funds. Can you tell me the amount again?
$15,020.91.
$15,020.91 for additional grants to close out the residential TIF 1 redevelopment grant program.
I'd second that.
All right, let's discuss it and see if you guys have concerns over this. I've got what I just said, but I don't know how consequential that is or not, but.
Like I said, I've explained to those that I have turned away that, I had announced at a previous council meeting. The other thing about these is I had spoken to them either when we announced the program, so they were aware of it. And we kind of changed the application process during the grant in that I was offering to pre-approve the grants largely because it was taking 6 weeks to get a bid, or it was taking 2 or 3 weeks to get a contractor out there. So it wasn't a perfect process, this being the first time with us doing it. But these folks, like I said, had talked to me prior to, right when they received the postcard in the mail, said that they would be doing a project, asked if their project would qualify, given the information I was given. I told them all that they would be, and they needed to get their application in, and they waited until their project was complete to do so. So that's where I'm coming at it from.
These that we're approving, is that circumstance?
That's correct, yes.
But what about the people that you said you told?
Most of the time, it was just a pre-approval process. Hey,
So
I'm
they
thinking
never
about
turned
doing
any
this
in?
project.
They
Correct.
never came back?
Correct, correct.
Okay. And if, presuming we do another one of these, they could, in theory, be at the first.
And I
one,
communicated
right?
that as well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes me feel a little bit better. Any comments? Doug, you got something on the tip of your tongue?
No, I'm good.
Okay, roll call please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item 8B.
All right, so since that program was so successful, we didn't budget for this, but we have the funds available in Hub TIF. We decided to offer a similar program to our commercial businesses in the Hub TIF, which is essentially, there's a map in your packet, but it's essentially downtown and some of the surrounding streets. There are some wings of it that go down Main Street and some different areas. So this would be a 50% match up to $10,000. So if a business owner spent $20,000, for example, putting a new awning on their building, or doing some tuck pointing, or fixing their windows on the facade of their building, or any of those types of things, they could qualify for a grant up to $10,000. Again, we're dedicating $250,000 of Hub TIF funds specifically to this program in hopes of making a difference on some of the other buildings in Marion that haven't seen or have needed some assistance to get some maintenance done on them. So that's what this contemplates. And again, it's specific to the Hub TIF. So not everyone in town would qualify, just those in that TIF that was started, I believe, back in 2011. So it's about 12 or 13 years old at this point, going on 13 years old.
Okay, I'll make a motion so we can discuss it. I move to approve ordinance 3907, creating the 2024 Hub TIF commercial facade renovation program.
I'll second.
So I think the idea here, gentlemen, is to simply create the same kind of virtuous cycle for some of the older commercial properties that we have so far seen some real success in residential TIF 1. That here the critical part of that share is we just talked about wrapping up that first round of residential TIF 1. Somewhere between $500,000 and $600,000, even though our commitment was $250 plus whatever we just approved, was spent in that area in a pretty short amount of time on private property, privately owned single-family houses and some rental properties, I think, in there. So that's significant. That's significant in the older part of town, and so this is just more of that kind of demeanor in trying to spur on some stuff that maybe they wouldn't do, maybe they couldn't afford to do otherwise, or maybe it makes them incentivize a little bit to be a whole lot more creative, and hopefully a rising tide lifts all the boats.
And just like the other programs, the materials need to be purchased within the city.
Correct. Any questions on that? Comments on it?
That's great. Cody, I know there were some guidelines that were set up as far as facing a street or not facing a street.
Yeah, so in areas, that is a little cloudy. But essentially, any building that's on a corner, obviously two faces, if it touches another building, the top lines could get tuck point. The idea is that you give the building a facelift of some sort, from the exterior, so the sidewalk, the front, the side road, whatever it may be. So it's a little bit different than the other program where that could be a fence in the backyard or whatever. That's not the case here. We're wanting the exterior of the building to get a facelift. Specifically in the hub TIF, you have a lot of buildings that touch, and so I think attorneys that wrote this might have overcomplicated it a little bit in those circumstances, but if you want us to clarify any of that, we can.
I just wanted to make sure everybody understood it to the point where, well, wait a minute. Want to make it.
Oh, and I'm sure I'll get those questions.
I'm sure. Yeah. But I mean, to me, it makes great sense. Hopefully, we'll have a lot of takers on it.
Outside of public infrastructure improvements and those sorts of things, this is one of the purest, in my opinion, uses of TIF. I mean, you're injecting money back into essentially the people that pay the property taxes, right? You're giving this money back to them to make improvements to their property, and as the mayor said, creating that virtuous cycle. So that's the goal here.
Any other further comments, questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton?
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick?
Yay.
Commissioner Webb?
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin?
Yay.
Mayor Absher?
Yay. Item 8C, thank you, Cody. Jim?
Yeah, we have, of course, a resolution, it's an IDOT resolution, 2023-12 for $695,045. This is for improvements on Main Street from Grant Street to Virginia Street, and on Market Street from Calvert Street to Marion Street. And basically what this is it's in combination with the work that's going to be an improvement on the street around the square itself. This is some ITEP funding we're getting. I think it's an 80-20 from the way I understand it. So the other 20% will come out of MFT, 80% ITEP. But the list of items that's going to be done is the paving, sidewalks, pavement removal, pavement replacement, other road work, ADA ramps, decorative lighting, landscaping, brick pavers, and other streetscaping work. And I believe it would be like probably two blocks west of the Tower Square, 2 blocks north, 1 block east, and 1 block south. So when that whole project's done, it'll be a very attractive area for the new streetscapes. But for that, I would make my motion.
I would second that.
Did you read the amount and all that in there?
Yeah, $695,045.
Okay.
Resolution.
Any other questions? Motion and second is to approve IDOT Resolution 2023-12. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton?
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick?
Yay.
Commissioner Webb?
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin?
Yay.
Mayor Absher?
Yay. Okay. We have a decision before you in this next item that has to do with a subject matter that we've been dealing with for several years, which in all fairness and transparency caused a lot of people to say a lot of things, social media and so forth. So I'm up here to make my argument to you, the council, as to the recommendation that I'll end with and how we got there. So, as I said, you have a decision to make tonight relative to selling the Sugar Creek property or not. We decided together in closed session to put that property up for an auction in one lump sum, nearly 1,800 acres. It did not meet the minimum reserve, but after the auction closed, an offer came forward that was over that reserve, and that is the item for you to consider tonight. The recommendation I'm making to sell it was made after researching the very storied history of the lake project, and particularly, and maybe most importantly, the updated, wow, I've got my own theme song now, and particularly the updated math that it would take to build a lake should that 30 years worth of storied history somehow magically go away. Glenn Clarida, the living and breathing encyclopedia for many things, including the history of this failed project and all things Marion, at a previous meeting went over a lot of this with us, but here's the very short summary. The city has had many years of repeated legal challenges to build the lake. Mayor Butler realized that 15 years ago once we started buying water from Rend Lake, and subsequently sent a letter to the government canceling the city's plans to build the lake. That was 2009. At that point, in my opinion, the city should have looked into divesting this land, but obviously we didn't. This process has taken us almost 3 years to complete, and all the due diligence that we have gone through during that time frame has helped immensely for me in coming to this recommendation to the council. As I said, the city never cleared the legal hurdles to build the lake despite over a decade in trying. And interestingly, Glenn does not believe that the Corps of Engineers has issued a permit to build any reservoir in that jurisdiction since ours was ultimately denied. However, pretend with me for a moment that we put all that legal history aside, as if it didn't happen one way or the other. So I'm going to call that the can you build a lake issue. Let's put that aside. Now it comes to the should we, if we could, which we can't, so we won't, but here's the math. The costs to build that lake have moved well beyond our ability to afford it in the last 30 years, since it was first considered. As with everything else in the last 30 years, it would be about 3 times as expensive to build today, at least, than what the original cost estimates were. However, we don't have 3 times the number of water customers from when that was first proposed. The reason that's important is because it is our water customers, as Brent, that's why I was asking some of those questions of Brent. How we pay for debt for water and sewer is by adding that as a portion of the city water and sewer combined bill. So to recap some very loose math at this point, if the lake were to be constructed and a new treatment plant were to be built, which was not contemplated originally 30 years ago, we'd likely have an upfront investment somewhere exceeding $35 million. Some people have said closer to $50 million, but I'm just using the conservative number. That amount of debt would require us to make monthly payments on that borrowed money, and that amount would be divided, as I said, over every customer's water bill. That type of bill would certainly double everyone in town's water bill. And for some users, depending on how much water they use, it would triple it. Now, the term of that debt, as Glenn explained before, would likely be somewhere in the 30-year time frame. if we were to borrow that money even from the government at a low interest rate. The problem with that is, by the time 30 years goes by and you pay off that debt, the water treatment plant that you built is going to need to be rehabbed again, because that's roughly the lifespan of a water treatment plant. Put another way, we'd have to borrow again. So not only has this cost inflation of that project alone a compelling reason to sell the land, but the agreement that we have in place with Rend Lake positions us to have some of the most affordable water bills in Southern Illinois. Now, I've heard it from people since well before I was mayor. I know that some people think we could have another water crisis like we saw in 2018 that lasted a few days. But here's the reality. Since that time, Rend Lake has installed a completely redundant line, and the city has built more water storage in the tune of another 500,000 gallons of water that's stored since that time. Therefore, the chance of a similar crisis like we saw then are slim. And even in that crisis, we did not run out of water. We got close. But Rend Lake has the capacity, the authority, and the resources spread throughout all of Southern Illinois to continue to offer affordable quality drinking water to our residents for generations to come. In addition, their lake has billions of gallons of water stored, and their water treatment plant has plenty of more capacity to help with our growth and that of Southern Illinois in the future. Now, I want to touch on the property itself. Keep in mind, I think we acquired some of the first parcels when I was in high school, late 80s. And shortly after that, the city entered into some logging contracts that netted the city very, very little revenue relative, at least in my mind, to the logging that was done and the mess that was left. And that all served to diminish the value of that land. We're fortunate to receive an offer that covers some of our original costs in purchasing that property and the title work and the surveys and more. The land has turned into a liability that we have dedicated no resources to since we purchased it to maintain it. There is no compelling business case to build a lake, and there's no foreseeable legal pathway to ever getting a permit to do so, especially now that we have had a reliable water source for 15 years. Not having access to a reliable water source was our main argument back in the day to both the Corps of Engineers and to the courts so many years ago. We simply cannot make that argument now. And that was always the main argument to make. And as I stated, we don't believe that the Corps has issued one permit in this jurisdiction that we're in since the time that ours was overturned. So with all those facts in mind, since we have no compelling or responsible business case in owning land we cannot maintain, we cannot build a lake on, and frankly can't afford to build the lake on, if somehow 30 years of this history suddenly changed. I've spent the better part of 3 years studying all of this, along with Glenn and Wendy and Cody and many of you. And I believe that selling this land is in the best interest of the taxpayers. It will be for the council to decide ultimately how this money is allocated. But one good use of the proceeds of the sale would be in the continuing upgrading of our water and sewer system infrastructure. You see, we have many upgrades yet to make, as Brent was talking about, that we were talking about earlier. By using these proceeds, should we ultimately choose to do so, for that would further benefit the taxpayer by avoiding having to borrow a similar amount then, like we did tonight. Lastly, I want to acknowledge that there are many, many people in town that have had an emotional connection and a hope that we would build our own water source. Many people worked tirelessly to make that happen. None so hard as Glenn Clara himself. But all the city's effort to build a lake died 15 years ago when we hooked up to Rend Lake. And that was further memorialized in 2009 with a letter that the city sent to the government. It didn't die by tonight's decision. It died 15 years ago. I think we were all elected to take a different approach and I've judiciously worked every day in this job to keep the taxpayers' best interest at the forefront. This decision and my recommendation to sell this property is consistent with that approach, and our community will no longer be burdened with a property that cannot be used for the intended purpose for which it was purchased. A property that we can't maintain, nor do we have the financial ability to improve, and continue to have that kind of taxpayers' dollars tied up into this asset turned substantial liability. It would be financially reckless, in my opinion, not to move forward with this sale. So it is my recommendation and motion that we approve ordinance 3906 declaring the Sugar Creek Lake property as a surplus and authorize the sales agreement we have to be executed for the offer of $2,900,000.
Second that.
Any discussion?
Just one thing, when you were talking about the dollar amounts to build a lake, build a dam, all that, did that include the hookup from there to here? Because I remember talking, it was like $1 million a mile.
Yes, it does.
That doesn't include
The
that.
original, back in early 90s, late 90s, was 35 million, which included a 24-inch water main from the lake to
The
the
treatment.
existing plant.
Okay.
But the new plant would be at the lake, not at Curtis location, which is where you want your treatment adjacent to the lake. Then you can send treated water everywhere instead of sending raw water through the line. You can pick up customers along that 24-inch main.
Gotcha.
Other comments, questions? We've wrestled with this for a long time. What to do, when to do it.
I'm thrilled we got a bona fide offer. We've discussed the shape that property's been in for years.
Well, it's in the shape of a lake.
No, I mean, physical shape.
It's a very odd
Why
piece of
not?
property.
Yeah.
Yeah, the logging didn't do it any favors.
And listening to Wendy and stuff, looking through myriads of agreements that have been in place for 20-some years, some of them were less, but they were all over the board.
Okay. Got a second, right?
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton?
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick?
Yay.
Commissioner Webb?
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin?
Yay.
Mayor Absher?
Yay. Item 10, commissioner reports. I don't remember which direction we started last time. Do you? Doug, do you have anything tonight?
I was going to announce that the Colt League World Series is coming to town this week. It will begin Thursday with kind of a kickoff program. Friday will actually be the first day of ball games. We've got team, I'm going to read off the teams: Youngstown, Ohio; Aroma Park, Illinois; a team that was assembled for Marion, or to represent Marion; Tijuana, Mexico; I believe it's Chiba, Chiba, Japan; another team from Southern Illinois called Southern Illinois Colt; Paderborn, Germany; Santa Monica, California; Rio Grande Valley, Texas; and Greensboro, North Carolina. The tournament will run Friday, July 28th through Tuesday, August 1st, and I certainly would consider or recommend that you go out and support this tournament. Brings a lot of money into the city, plus you get the kicker of getting to watch some good baseball games.
What time's it on Thursday to kick off? Do you know?
First games are, I believe, start in the morning, but there will be a nightly program, probably around 7 o'clock. Each night there'll be something different that we'll recognize or do, like educator night or military night or whatever. So.
Okay, Commissioner Barwick?
So I've got the June report for the fire department. Number of calls, fire calls were 16, explosion calls 1, rescue and EMS 12, hazardous conditions no fire 13, service calls 12, 15 good intent calls, 16 activated alarms, for a total of 85. And looking back over the past year, we've had a total of 928 incidents that we've been called to. And for the month of June, on the fires that they had, they used a total of 5,668 gallons of water. Is there anyone interested?
Jim?
Yeah, street department, on the west side of town, we've been doing a lot of extra weeding and cleaning up on the west side, trying to get ready for the ball tournament. We have a lot of visitors coming into town, so looking good out there. Been working on sidewalks on Circle Drive. Replaced, actually put a new storm sewer in on Mac Drive out in Scottsboro. Replaced 295 feet of road that had failed out by the new Love's truck stop. And put concrete in there, so. And then we've been also doing some ditching on East Main, Old Creel, and Boyden Street. As far as cemetery, everything's looking good out there. That's all I have.
John?
All right, since last water department report, we had 7 meter pits repaired or replaced, 2 water leaks were fixed, 3 services were updated, 2 fire hydrants were repaired, and 1 new water tap since last report. It is trivia night, so I've got a dual trivia tonight. So since it's so hot out, we did trivia about some hot stuff. So first one, Mayor, you may have to excuse yourself from this one. So we know around 1908, the Model T was created, but what year did automobiles first get the first air conditioner? Was it 1923, 33, 43, or 53?
I'm gonna say 53.
What are the choices?
I'm gonna say
23?
23, 33, 43, 53. First air conditioner.
Maybe we should define air conditioner.
It's not 2x40.
Is it?
It's
True
like
air
modern air conditioner, like what we have
Air
now, an
conditioning.
evaporator and
Air
condenser and all that.
condenser.
Okay, I'm gonna say
Type of-
I'm gonna say 33.
You are correct.
Oh.
1933.
Good.
A company in New York City first offered the installation of air conditioning in cars in 1933. Most of their customers at that time operated limousines or very luxury cars. 6 years later, 1939, Packard became the first automobile manufacturer to offer air conditioning as an optional unit in its 1940 model year cars.
So those weren't the 460 models?
No.
4 windows down and 60 miles?
They were not. No. All right, this second one really is, really goes with heat we've been experiencing. In what year was the popsicle on a stick invented? Okay, I'll give you 4 choices. 1705, 1805, 1905, 1955.
1905 because it had to be around the World's Fair.
You were like,
Am
you're
I
like
on-
Karnak.
Am I on it?
You were on
Well,
fire.
Didn't ice cream come out in 1904?
1904, the ice cream cone.
Cone.
Yes, was it? Yes, it was, the very first popsicle was created in 1905 by an 11-year-old named Frank Epperson. After a long day of playing, Frank went inside but left his cup of soda with the stick stuck in it on the porch. The night got very cold, and when Frank went outside the next morning, he found his drink was frozen like an icicle. Frank's invention was a hit with kids at school and later with his own kids who called it Popsicle. The name was catchy, so Frank patented it in 1923 to share popsicle ice pops with the world. The brand is still alive to this day. There you go. That's your 2 trivia.
Okay, Jill at Club 60 sent me this report. I want to read you some good things happening at Club 60. They partnered with Williamson County Programs on Aging to distribute over $12,000 worth of farmers market food vouchers. According to the Program on Aging, this is a record-breaking amount that will be spent at our local farmers market. They also partnered with several local organizations, businesses, and citizens to form our very own senior food pantry at Club 60 to help seniors 60 and over prevent food insecurity, especially when they need it at a time during the month when their limited financial resources have been exhausted. Jill wants to thank everyone who helped us with that, from Local Laborers Union 773, the local ACME chapter, Fifth Seasons Assisted Living, the Insurance House, Interstate Tire Pro Auto Service, and multiple citizens in the community. They are hosting, Club 60 is hosting a back-to-school supply drive now until August 1st. All donations will benefit local Marion children and donated to Boynton Street Community Center for disbursement. Walk Around the Clock with a Doc is scheduled for this Thursday at Club 60 at 9 a.m. in conjunction with the Hub, Deaconess Hospital, the Marion Carnegie Library, and the City of Marion. The topic will be on osteoporosis versus osteoarthritis with screenings, education, question and answers over breakfast, finger foods, followed by a healthy walk around the mural district. And finally, she just wants to report they recently came across a senior in need of immediate housing assistance. Multiple city departments work together along with Darius Johnson at the Coalition for the Homeless on Cherry Street here in Marion to help him not only find a local Marion senior immediate shelter, but also get him the financial and medical resources he needed. Everyone at Club 60 is extremely proud to work side by side with such compassionate and talented people in our many city departments, from the Water Department, Animal Control, Codes Department, Police Department, and the Mayor's Office. What an uplifting report that was. Appreciate that. Okay, anything else under miscellaneous to come before the council this evening? Does anybody have a need on item 12 for a closed executive session? Oh, sorry, Chief?
I want to let you know we're going to be doing some specialized training next Tuesday and Wednesday at Longfellow School, so.
Active shooter training.
Yes,
right?
sir. And going to culminate with a full-blown scenario on Thursday at the high school. So we just want citizens that live near Longfellow to know that everything's fine, we'll just train.
Okay. Shannon, do you think the audio picks that up? Next, say that again, next Thursday, Tuesday and Thursday?
Tuesday and Wednesday is
Okay.
training at Longfellow. Thursday is the full-blown scenario at the Marion High School.
Okay. There's we've done this the last few years to be prepared in the case of extreme emergency and tragedy, and it's quite a process that goes on, and beneficial training for our police officers, so people in the neighborhood of Longfellow and the high school just needs to be aware of that next week. There's lots of police cars and lots of people in uniform out there, and it's not an emergency, it's preparing for one. Okay, anything else come before the council in miscellaneous? Anybody have a need for a closed or executive session? Hearing no need, I would entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton?
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick?
Yay.
Commissioner Webb?
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin?
Yeah.
Mayor Absher?
Okay, thank you all.